Hi, I'm Rebecca, and this is Rapacious Reads. Today I thought I'd do a Friday Reads. So I'm reading 3 books, and I feel like Friday Reads are only interesting when you're reading multiple books, which is why I put off doing a Friday Reads for a while. I was considering doing like a vacation reads, things I read on vacation, because I could talk about more books that way. But that was like a month ago. So we're just gonna barrel right on through and we're gonna do a Friday Reads. So, I've been reading In a Time of Distance by Alexander McCall Smith, and I haven't been liking it. So I read some Joan Didion when I was on holiday, and the introduction, the foreword, the inspiration of Slouching Towards Bethlehem is a Yeats poem. And it's so beautiful. It's about an eagle. It's about multiple things. About the center not holding. Like, I think she takes a lot of inspiration from Yeats because the center will not hold is the title of one of her other books. And I just feel like 21st century poetry doesn't understand what poetry is. It's like it took the worst parts of epic poetry and the worst parts of lyric poetry and stuck them together. So they're almost prose lines that are very short. There's no overarching theme. So like I can get behind like almost prose poetry with like no internal meter, with the lines not talking to each other. If it's an epic poem, that makes sense. And if it's not an epic poem, if it's something that takes up the space of a page or less, then I want it to have lyric. I want it to rhyme. I want it to sound mellifluous. I want my ear to be engaged. And this book does not do that. It's just like thought, maybe a twist, thought. But like you're not going back to the other lines and you're not like rethinking. It's just, okay, let's read you a poem. Let's read you a poem and I'll just explain. I think I wanted to read you the giraffe poem, or the kangaroo poem. Okay, here's a poem about kangaroos by Alexander McCall Smith. You occupy a land of reds and browns, of flame and water and hard rock. You move through eucalyptus scrub and tinder grass across a land so thirsty that it aches, and yet you yourself are gray and red and soft, so deep. And take your tiny young into the warm comfort of a maternal pouch. Bound and ye leap across a landscape bathed in birdsong, the kookaburra, the pink galah, your minstrels. Under these stars, dipping and wheeling through their southern light, you sleep on dust. Part of our dreams, part of our symbolism. You cross small segments of the sky. Now, sure, like the last 2 lines might be a little bit deeper, but the majority of the poem is like, you're red, you're brown, you're gray, like you live here, you eat this. It's so boring and it's not poetry. However, like I read a little bit more and I got into the books and reading section, and that like I vibed with a little bit more, to use the Zoomer term. So he has this poem called What a Book Is, and the last 2 lines of the poem are source of what we want so very much to believe in and to preserve. And that explains, like, to me, that is why I read romance novels. Like, it's what I want to believe in, and I want to preserve love, and because, like, I can't make sense of liking romance novels so much. Like, they're not good, they're not well written, the history is inaccurate, but something about them, it's compulsive. You know, you have to, and you just want to continue. Yeah, so that's enough about poetry. Who knows if I'll keep the rant in. You don't need that on a beautiful Friday. Talking about beautiful Friday. One of the reasons I'm so discombobulated is that my neighbor cut down the tree on their property, but it shaded my yard, and now my yard is warmer and unprotected, and I just don't know how I'm going to cope. Okay. So the next book I read, or am reading this week, is The Witcher. I'm reading on an ebook. It's obviously not called The Witcher. It's The Blood of Elves. The first novel he wrote chronologically, but not the first chronological novel in the storylines. And guys, I hate it. I hate it. I don't think it's well written, and I don't know if it's the translation, but I can't stand it. And I even looked up reviews, and I was like, okay, come on, somebody's got to be talking about how it's written. It's written really badly. And now I'm second guessing myself. I'm like, maybe I'm too dumb to understand this book. Maybe it's me. I don't know. Okay, so I'm just gonna find some quotes and read to you why it is so trash, okay? Okay, well, now I've gone through the book looking for quotes of things I hate, and I think I don't hate it anymore. Okay, so this is one of the scenes I was thinking of. Ciri is practicing her acrobatics, and it's shown through dialogue rather than describing her physicality, which, I mean, now that I think about it, it's actually really interesting and a cool way of writing rather than confusing, except it was confusing when I was reading it. Okay, faster Ciri, lunge, attack, dodge, half pirouette, thrust, dodge, balance. So as Lambert is saying these things, you're supposed to be picturing Ciri doing them. So you're picturing an older man watching a young girl, like, bouncing on beams and, like, attacking different obstacles. Balance with your left arm or you'll fall in the comb and you'll hurt your womanly attributes. What? Nothing. Are you tired? We'll take a break if you like. No, Lambert, I can go on. I'm not that weak, you know. Shall I try jumping over every other post? Don't you dare. You might fall, and then Marigold will tear off my head off. I won't fall. I've told you once and I'm not going to say it again. Don't show off. Steady on your legs and breathe, Ciri. Breathe. You're panting like a mammoth. So instead of the omniscient narrator telling us that Ciri is panting, Ciri is scrambling over this, we need to realize that the dialogue is describing all of the movement that is occurring. And I think that confused me at first. So, I mean, I guess, you know, he did some other interesting things. So one of the opening scene is, well, not the battle scene. The opening scene with Dandelion in a bar. So Dandelion had just performed, and then it focuses out to the audience, and it's the audience debating about the meaning of Dandelion's performance. And through them conversing about it and fighting about it, you get to see these, like, political and racial tensions between them, and they all have, like, multiple motivations layered. And it comes out through dialogue. Okay, so maybe it's really good and I'm just picky. You know, I like a little bit of description, so sue me. I feel like when I'm reading it, I have to be on my toes, and ready to interpret things. Like, it's not all spelt out by the narrator. And I'm finding that difficult when I'm reading it. And I just haven't seen anyone else say that. And it makes me think that I'm missing something because I'm having a harder time reading it. And, like, I read hard books, but it's, yeah. Okay, moving on. The third book I'm reading this week is The Calvary Maiden, which is an autobiography by Nadezhda Durova. So this is about the Napoleonic Wars from the perspective of a woman who dressed as a man to join the cavalry. So her father was a soldier, And she was very inspired by him, and she wanted to be just like him. And her mother was a terror and always, forced her to make lace. And her mother made it worse by not letting her go outside and playing and that sort of thing. But okay, so one of the interesting lies that Nadezhda says is that she ran away when she was 16. So she curiously omits the fact that she got married and had a child and abandoned them to join the Cavalry at the age of 24. So she wants you to believe that she's just a young woman, going off into the world. And it's very interesting seeing the things she omits. And it's also, I'm also interested in her sexuality. She describes the young women very favorably, and she describes them on like a one-to-one personal level, whereas the men she describes as a group, we were very dashing versus, this young woman was in the bloom of youth or whatever. And there's an interesting usage of masculine pronouns by Durova. And also, in the appendix, her father, half refers to her as male. It's a very interesting, gender theory. And then also from the political perspective, I think I can read it in these trying times because technically she's Ukrainian. So her mom was born in Ukraine, and she spends some of her childhood in Ukraine. And I'm also confused about how much of Eastern Europe Russia considers to be Russia, because she's campaigning and she doesn't mention that she's left Russia until she's in Poland. And I just, there's some intervening countries there. I don't know. Yeah, so I have a map as well. Oh, my map. So Russia extends all the way to Austria, is my understanding. Yeah. And that's all I'm reading this week.